because Lawrence is, as you know, not here. I think I've got to do all the things we've had. I think I've only got to do apologies, haven't I? And then we've moved to the election. We've had apologies, and the apologies and the reasons were circulated earlier. Are you content to accept those apologies and the reasons?
Sorry, can I just go first? The committee does actually need to consider who's going to preside. So I asked Councillor Colling if she would. So if we can take a motion for that, please.
You've got to vote for me to do As long as she stops after 3.5 minutes.
And then you're going to preside over the election of the vice chair, if that's okay, Pat. And then at that point, once we've got a vice chair, they can take the chair.
Can come here. Okay, so it's not where public question time's happening after vice chair and everything. So, can I have any nominations people have, including self-nomination, for vice chair of this committee, please?
Councillor Glenn Kirby.
Glenn Kirby, do I have a seconder? Mary, and a thirder? Are there any other nominations, including self-nomination? No. All those in favour? There you go.
I'd like to thank my parents.
That was better than my vice chair in respect to the speech.
Well, I might have to be guided along this because standing orders up and down and all sorts of things. So. Right, so public question time. Obviously we've got nobody from the public in. So I presume we'll just move forward with that. So as usual, the meeting is being recorded. Is there anybody else that would like to make a recording? No? As usual, it'll end up on the YouTube channel. Apologies and reason for absence from this meeting. Those have been circulated, have they?
They have been circulated. Apologies, they were circulated so late. Forgot entirely to do them this week, so I do apologise for that. All three councillors are, well, you know the reason, it was given in the email. So it's Councillor Green, Councillor Osborne and Councillor Bailey.
I'm okay with that.
Yep. All in favour? Okay. So, have there been any new personal pecuniary interest forms sent in since the last meeting? No?
None to share.
So, the next thing is, anybody got any personal and disclosable pecuniary interests in items on the agenda today?
I'm Councillor Moses Crooks, second.
Okay. Should we noted? Is there any reason to not be involved in any votes regarding that or no? So are there any items on the agenda which need to be discussed in a private session?
Chair, can I suggest that item 242515, progress regarding the possible tendering process for Holmfirth public toilets and maintenance of smaller assets is held in private session due to commercial sensitivity. It will become public record when, hopefully, the process is finalised in the September meeting.
Yeah.
Does that side need to be in private up to the point it's signed and agreed?
I can't see, seeing as everything to do with that is already a matter of public record, I would say it would be better to hear that in public.
So moving on, the minutes of the previous Service Provision Committee meeting from the 19th of February, they were approved in the full council meeting on the 18th of March. As the clerk to report anything that comes out of those minutes?
Yes, I've got some things to report. There are a number of things that will come up in later items for this particular meeting. But if I can just make reference to item 232474 from the budget, regarding the Home Valley Patient Transport Scheme. Just to say that that's now moved to the Finance and Management Committee under the new scheme of delegation, section 4.1.2.3. And also to say, there was a further item, 232476, regarding CCTV. An action for the clerk was to contact Home Firth Forward about gauging interest and feedback regarding whether they would be interested in looking at CCTV for Home Firth. I've not yet done that action, so I will carry that out after this meeting. And then also, just to say, regarding item 232486, Science Recreation, that was deferred to this meeting, that, as members know, has been resolved at full council.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to budgetary matters and Service Provision Committee budget 24-25 and earmarked reserves. Any updates Clark you need to tell us about?
There's a link to an item that comes later, 242522, regarding youth work, and a recommendation to full council to approve expenditure of £25,000. So that will come up a little bit later in the agenda. Just to say, regarding budget line 4715 defibrillators, which was approved at full council for the replacement pad for a defibrillator in Brockholes. You'll see there's a slight anomaly there, in that it seems to be £595 out. That's because there was a £595 delivery cost. Because of the company we were directed to order from, the way in which the defib replacement pad was paid for was I paid from my account, and then the council was going to reimburse me. Just to say, the deputy clerk will organise that postage fee when he comes back from leave. So it is all in hand. Thank you.
Okay. Any other councils got anything they wish to comment on the budget? The earmarked reserves? No? Okay. The next item is Honley Library. I'm presuming you've all seen the update that's come out from Honley Library. In summary, I think that they seem to be doing quite well at fundraising at the moment.
Yeah, I think as somebody said to me at Homley Show, the first 50,000 will be quite easy. It's the second 50,000 that's a bit of a challenge. So they've got the first 50,000 more or less.
Yeah.
So yes, it's the hard half now to get the other. But they've done brilliantly well. I mean, in about 10 minutes it seems.
So they need 100,000 and then that would be matched by something else hopefully.
Yeah.
So it's an info.
Yeah, because we're putting a bid into the Heritage Lottery Fund.
Wow.
If we don't get that, the money we've raised will be used in some other way on the building, because it is part of the matched funding, the 100.
It's brilliant. How fast they raise all that money. Really good.
But fingers crossed that, I mean, sorry, I'm interrupting these, but fingers crossed that they do get it. One thing that could get in the way, and it'd be one of those where you'd think, well, I suppose that's fair. It sort of depends who else is applying at the time. If there is another library that is going to close down, it is likely to get money above us, where we are seeking to improve. But, so fingers crossed there aren't any other libraries in bidding in that.
There was Atlantic Beach, anyway, where we hope.
They've also said, I'm sorry,
So,
sorry, Councillor Barker.
I was just going to say how impressed I was by the report. I thought it, and I watched the video, and I just thought it's just so brilliantly well done, and it was quite moving. I found the video quite moving. But you know, the range of opportunities and different ages of it was hugely impressive.
There was one bit when they were filming it was Saturday, it was I think 2 or 3 Saturday mornings, because Saturday you get all sorts, and you have the Lego club, it's lovely. If you've never been on a Saturday morning, do come. Tom will with that text, it's delightful in here on a Saturday morning. But we came in that particular first Saturday, there was about 30 people here, every one of them a friend or trustee or volunteer. We're all taking our badges off for the film.
Yes, Councillor.
Yeah, as I say, if you'd only knew a film, I'd have brought it in. No, I was going to say the first time I ever brought it down, I kind of brought it down. I didn't tell anybody I was a councillor, so I was kind of like going a bit undercover the first couple of times I come in. And I was coming down to, well, I was thinking he's obsessed with books and loves books, and he does like it here, and he likes the Lego as well. But like I was having a look around and seeing what people were doing as well and things like that. And the first time I came down, I just thought, wow, this is one of the best things we've done in the parish council since I've been involved with it. Because you see all the people using it, and if we've lost that, it's really important to all the people that do come here, all the kids that do come in, and different things like that. It's so important what it does for all ages, like all people, different types of people coming in, and that's why it's so important to keep it going. And the plans that they're excellent, what they're planning to do, and like I said, the range of summer activities as well for the kids, stuff like that as well. It's really good for the children on Holly and the surrounding areas, and it's just brilliant. That's all I'll say.
Does he think it's 7:30? Donald, you can sit here.
So I've got some things to report, if that's okay, Chair. So first of all, just to say regarding the report that came from Friends of Honey Library. So the parish council supplied Honey Library with one of its letters of support that it needed for the community ownership fund. Obviously, due to the election and so forth, the community ownership fund was sort of put in abeyance until the resumption of government activity. So, you know, Friends of Honey Library will find out what's happening to that now that activity is resumed. So that's all I can add to that bit. But I have got quite a little bit to say about the community managed library model. Quite a lot has happened really since our last meeting. On the 16th of April there was a meeting which, as you know, because a number of you were present, with representatives from Kirklees to look at the community managed library model that was proposed. After that meeting, I wrote a letter on behalf of the parish council that was shared with all councillors, so you've all seen that letter. That was acknowledged on the 27th of April, and then on the 30th of May I emailed Kirklees further, just requesting an update really ahead of this meeting. On the 31st I got a response from Jill Greenfield saying that the feedback was still being collated. Now today I've received an email from the current Friends of Honey Library Chair, Anne Brooke, to say that she's taken a call from the Kirklees Library Service Area Manager, who's got a responsibility for pulling together the consultation report. There is no update because this is in the Kirklees Library Service Area Manager's words. There's no one in place to present a report to or to make decisions. Okay, so I did say
I must say, I congratulate them on the speed of their response and the fact that they're keeping us informed. It's very welcome.
Okay, moving on to Holmfirth Civic Hall Community Trust. Again, we've had a report on the ongoing projects and grant funding, staffing update and finances and current activities. Is there anything that the clerk wishes to report further?
Yes, I've got several things to report regarding this. First of all, one of the actions was to schedule a meeting with the civic trustees, who are our Home Valley Parish Council representatives, the chair of the Service Provision Committee and the chair of HCHCT, plus their Business Development Manager, to review financial matters. Really, this got overtaken by events. As you know, motions went to full council on the 24th of June. regarding the civic and taking action there to support them financially. As reported by the business development manager in the report she's submitted, they're waiting now for the independent examination of their 2023-24 financial records to be complete. And my suggestion would be that probably still does need to be that meeting, but following the publishing of that report. I don't know if the civic representative would
I
like to add
would
to that.
concur with that. I think it makes the whole process a lot clearer.
Sorry, I'll just make a note of that and then I'll carry on. Other things to report on? No, I think that's it actually.
Any other councillors got any questions on that report? Anything they'd like an update on?
I think the last council meeting had a full background to what's going on, so I think for once we're fully in the picture.
I would agree.
I have to say, I actually had a meeting about public transport with Alec Bray, and he was actually delighted with the response from the full council.
Good.
Very
Yes,
supportive.
Simon Homley certainly was
Yes.
saying how pleased he was.
He started it by giving us such good sort of feedback in the first place, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yes, no, he said it's a nice.
Yeah.
nice
Councillor Dixon?
I think we need to be thankful for the trustees that are involved with the civic hall, because they do put in a lot of work and they're all volunteers. So we should be very thankful for what they are doing at the moment. I can't say I fully agree on everything that they come out with in the reports and stuff like that. And yeah, there's a lot of things that not exactly what I wanted to hear, but I suppose it's better than being honest with us rather than hiding things. And it does seem like they're going to do a proper thorough job of getting the civic hall in a good working order. And I think maybe when we took it on, the parish council was a bit. There were some people who voted against us taking it on because they knew how much it was going to cost and it was a big project and how it was going to cost it for a lot of years. And some of us were more naive about it, including myself. I knew it was going to cost a bit, but not as much as it is doing. But it's just one of those things, I suppose.
I would, councillor.
I think as Councillor Wilson said at full council, we've got to, it is going to eat up a lot of money for quite some years yet. And it may be 10 years before they can be back at a point where they break even. It may be sooner than that. But I think we've got to stop seeing it as a black hole for money and see it as the fantastic thing it is for the valley. And that we're providing it, and that sort of thing does cost money, but we're benefiting the people of the valley with it. So, and I think we need a change of mindset about, yeah, it's costly, but look what we're doing. Yeah.
Sorry, I'll just say one more thing. When Councillor Wilson was talking in the meeting, he was talking about other parishes and civic halls, and he didn't know if any of that did. And I said to him after the meeting that Upper Mill, Samuel Parish Council, they've got Upper Mill at Civic Hall, which they've done now. And when I was chairman, I went to an event there and saw it all. It was really good. And I was Googling it after the meeting, because I was saying to Andy, I might be worth meeting with these guys to see how they work. And I Googled it and looked at it myself. And that's had a lot of money spent on it in the last few years. It's had big renovations and a lot of work done on it. But they're now getting some quite big standard bands playing there. Like similar bands who are playing the Picture Room here, they play Upper Mill Civic Hall. And they get big weddings going on there and a lot of functions. So in the long term, the investment will make it a better asset for the valley, and it also make it so that it can generate better, more money and better profits. Because the way it looks at the moment with the shabby hall and entrance bit and things like that, it's going to put people off. But if we can make it a desirable venue, it can hopefully generate more money for itself.
Any other comments?
I think in the next couple of years, when the architects produce the vision report, then we will know exactly where we're going, and we'll be able to get feedback from the public as to whether they agree with it. But you know, to have a vision of what it could be, which for 7 years we've had no vision, which is actually quite a disgrace. That you know, we take it on, and all it's done is eat money, which is a severe disappointment. I think, putting it mildly.
I'd like to kind of record my gratitude to this new set of trustees who, having lost an experienced leader, have got it pulled together and seem to have really kicked it into let's have a really good, deep, wide, long look, and I think they've done an excellent job.
Yeah, I would concur. Because otherwise, if you haven't got a long-term plan, you're just throwing money at things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was,
And
this is
it
leaking,
might not be
that's
the most
leaking,
important
that's
thing,
falling
you're just throwing
down,
money, and now they seem
yeah.
to have a much better handle on
Yeah.
everything that needs doing, and over a period of years,
Yeah,
what needs
and we
doing
can
first.
budget
Yeah,
probably,
absolutely.
and
Can I just say, I just wanted to say that it is inevitable that we are going to have to be looking after the civic, and as you said, we need to change our attitude towards it, that you know, will always be with us.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to get rid of it.
well, we couldn't even if we wanted.
No, exactly. So there's sort of no point in moaning about it, and just get a good plan, which we're getting, going forward, act upon that plan, and then build on what can be done with the civic. I agree, be positive about it.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think it would be worth some of the trustees going up there and actually meeting with them, or just a visit and have a look around and just kind of learn from other groups and what they're doing.
I mean, that was a popular venue for people to come visit, and it's another option. On a Saturday night.
Anybody have anything else to comment on? Thank you for that. Next, moving on to other assets, the Gartside building update and the rental. Have you got an update for us, Clark?
Yeah, and apologies, because I didn't change the motion from the last meeting, because this isn't really about noting the current position and future possibilities, it's just updating you regarding where we've got to with the lease. So apologies that I hadn't got that right. So from the date of the last service provision meeting, there has been significant progress, as everyone is aware. A tenant's been found and approved at annual council, and we are in the process of negotiating the lease. And the, as you know, also full council approved costs for the lease. So Ramsdens were tasked on the 14th of May with drawing up the lease for Epics. On the 30th of May, the draft lease went from Ramsdens to Epics. Went from Ramsdens to the council first of all. I shared that lease with comments with the council chair, vice chair and the chair of service provision committee, and then approved the lease on behalf of the council to Ramsdens for release to Epics. So work's all started on that. The preferred start date was the 1st of July, but there has been slippage. That's been missed quite clearly. And that's because there's a little bit of delay in Epics getting back to Ramsdens, but also the person at Ramsdens that they got back to was then on leave. So it's amazing, isn't it, how things like that cross wires, and it has formed a little bit of slippage, but my understanding is there is now an aim to have the lease in place for the 1st of August. Okay, so that's what's being worked to really. And the other thing to report, which I'll be asking for your approval of, the chair of service provision suggested that there should be a water supply, a wash basin in the Gartside unit, because that's lacking at the moment. So we've obtained a quote from our maintenance contractor, who thinks that it will cost up to £300 to make that change. So I would like the committee to consider approval of expenditure up to £300 for the installation of a basin and water supply from budget 4325, the lettable space. There's £1,000 available, so that the money is definitely there. Should this be desired by the incoming tenant? I've not yet had a response from Ethics as to whether this is something they would like.
But can we approve it at this meeting so that should they wish to do that, we can carry on?
Yeah.
So, I've got a proposer,
Yeah.
a seconder, all in favour?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. £300 is good value for work.
Yeah. So that's the Thursday Energy 2 report. Just also to say, we've also, the Chair of Service Provision received an email from Ethics at the beginning of this month regarding reducing energy inputs. What Ethics are suggesting is that they would like to put an application into the Bright Green Energy Fund, which is open for the duration of July, to apply for LED lighting and a portable air source heat pump to be installed, and possibly to look at insulation as well. So what I'm bringing to this committee is to ask whether the committee can support Ethics in that.
Proposer, seconder, all in favour?
They're going to pay for that themselves, to put an air source heat pump on.
Well, they're applying, they're going to apply to the Green Energy Fund for a grant to put those things
And
in.
if they get
Well, presumably they can
So
take
they're
it.
going to do it.
They'll need to get planning permission for that, won't they? Because it's on a conservation area. We've had planning permission come through for some of these air source pumps, haven't we?
It's portable though.
Is it?
Is that-
Oh,
is that-
Portable ones.
oh, not one of these. Oh, sorry. Not one of these big ones that stick in the side of the door.
No, I don't think.
The word portable
Sorry,
was
sorry.
in there.
I missed that.
Whether portable means
Sorry,
by
sorry.
gloves or by one old woman, I don't know.
If they're going to take it, that seems like a win-win, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, if it is portable, they'd be able to take it with them when the lease comes to them.
They won't take the rest of us.
No, they won't be taking it to live on. Yes, that's it.
Yeah, that's the question. Was there some talk about a transport hub related to ethics? They were.
That's what they're going to.
That's what they're
And
going
what would that look like? Do we know?
I don't know.
No.
I don't know what it will look like, but they want to promote active travel. They want to have like an electric bike outside, and they've got some folding bikes that you can take on the train and stuff like that. So I think it will be an information for with working models to see what's going on.
Fair enough.
So can I ask you then, if there is a proposal and a seconder to consider supporting Ethics in completing a grant application to the Bright Green Energy Fund regarding installing LED lighting, a portable air source heat pump and possibly insulation for the Gartside units.
Pick your proposer and seconder.
Just add something as well, because the LED lighting and the energy saving goes with the solar panel thing,
Yes.
which our ethics are aware of that as well, I think.
Mm.
I mean, it might help them with their
Bid.
might it?
Yeah.
Any further updates or comments on gas island? Home for the public toilets. We'll have seen the report, report G, which covers a number of different things. So, Clark, wants to give us an update on public toilets?
Thank you. So, first thing to say is, going back to the last service provision committee meeting, the committee wished to explore further options for improving the toilets. As I put in my report, on the 18th of April, myself and the contractor had a site meeting at the toilets. We went through the contractor's risk assessment and health and safety procedures, and also discuss the issues that were raised at the Service Provision Committee. You'll remember that some of that was in private session. So some of those things were raised. All but one of the corroded mirrors have been replaced. The remaining mirror will be replaced as soon as an appropriate mirror comes into stock. The disabled toilet door, which has been showing signs of rot, so that's had aluminium plates attached over the weaker area to strengthen the door and improve its appearance. And the door into the female toilet will be repaired in the same way, because that too is showing signs of rot. I know that the chair of Service Provision has asked Longley Farm if they can give some recommendations of flooring specialists, but I've not heard anything more about that, so I don't know if we've had anything further regarding that. In terms of the voluntary contributions box, I have done some research on equipment that would allow people to make contribution with their bank card rather than through money. It's quite hard to find companies that would be prepared to do a one-off kind of system for us that would be sufficiently robust to put into the toilets. I've not finished researching this yet, and I've not heard back from all the people I contacted regarding it. But I do wonder if what we shouldn't do is switch to thinking, well, let's at least replace the box that we all know isn't fit for purpose with something that is taking coins, because I think getting anything that's going to take payment by card is going to take longer. It's going to take longer to sort out, basically, and probably be quite prohibitive in terms of cost too. So that's the first thing to say about the voluntary contributions box.
Can I just do a quick because I would like to propose that don't pay. Because the amount of money that goes into the process of it, it's not a huge amount of money. Why don't we have a free toilet?
How much will it cost? How much do we get a year for the voluntary contribution?
400 and something.
Come on. Previously, before COVID, when people had a lot more, carrying around cash a lot more, we used to get about 10,000, between 10 and 12,000 in donations. It does seem to have really, really gone down recently. I think there's a combination of people not carrying cash around or cost of living, a few things. I think like the dates on here, they don't include when it's the folk festival, the summer months when we do get a lot of takings, and the food festival as well, when we get a lot of money in there. So we were getting a significant amount of money before, and I think we should.
I'm just going on what I read.
Yeah, no, that's fine. No, it has gone down loads compared to what it was normally before, and it was worthwhile doing, and people supported us over it, and asking people to do 20p is still cheaper than what it costs at some public toilets over like in the seaside, like where it goes to Filey. It's about 40p go there, so we're not asking for a lot of money. The one thing I was going to say, Jim, was when I was at Scarborough last time, at the lifeboat thing, they've got something there where where it's like a little device which is behind the glass, and I was able to pay with it using that. It's something like that I could probably need. It might even be worthwhile asking the Scarborough lifeboat people or something like that, where they get theirs from and how they do it. They don't look very complicated or expensive. It's like the Friends of Club for Rec, we walked out to try and get a device to use. Because, and I think you can get some devices where you can, the pop-up devices people have when they're at events and things like that. But they're about 15, 20 quid or something like that, Mary. So they're really cheap. But obviously we want something that's going to be there permanent and going on the time. So it's a little bit different. But it shouldn't cost more than like 100, 400 quid. And I think it would help with the takings. If we are going to go down that route, we could go down the route where we just do it for free. But you can decide.
In my view, I think you'll find it costs a lot more than £200. Purely simply because the portable ones tend to be attached to a phone. So they talk to the phone, but then talk to the internet, and that's how everything gets approved. your first problem is going to be where's your internet connection. If you haven't got an internet connection, sorry.
I just wonder if we do something with QR codes instead of having a QR code so that people can read that and then.
There was doing it.
With a small child.
But it's only voluntary, isn't it? Anyway, so
Yeah.
you know, even if
They can go to the loo without paying.
yeah, you
Yeah.
don't have to use it. You don't have to pay it.
So I think we're missing a trick if we don't have a box saying
Yeah.
voluntary contribution.
So what's the next steps on that? Are you still doing some research on the?
Yeah, I think you're talking about the Scarborough one, because they've got the same with Whitby. So I think this is the issue. The companies that do the robust kind of systems aren't necessarily going to want to set up one system for us. But what I will have another look when I'm next in Whitby. I'll see what they do with their loos, if there's anyone, because you have to pay to go into theirs. There's no choice, it's not voluntary. But I wonder if they've got a car payment system. I will have a look.
They do have one, because there's the one by across from where the train station is in Whitby, and they've got the barriers, and you have to go up to them with your contactless and put it on there, and then you can go through. And it's like that in some of the ones in Scarborough as well.
Yeah.
Used to be a library upstairs above those loos.
I don't know what they
There was a
want.
little girl.
I suppose what I'm saying is that there will probably be a two-track replacement. The cash box replacement is a much easier,
Yeah.
quicker thing to do. The researching whether or not we can get to a stage where people could use QR codes, which is a really good idea, I thought, and or just touch, that might take longer to research and come up with something that's affordable, robust and appropriate, if that makes sense. The other thing I'd like to say regarding the toilets is, when I met with John at the toilets, there was quite definitely room at the front to design an information board that could have information like the fact that toilets no smoking, voluntary contributions, explaining why we ask for them and what they go to do, opening times, because we haven't got a proper opening time thing there at the moment. People to contact if there's a problem with the toilets, information about the maintenance. There is definitely space to have that kind of signage. As you go into this, there's two possible. Yes, yeah, that's right. So there is space to do that. And one of the things, as you know, I put onto the agenda is to consider the formation of a working group to draw up proposals for possible refurbishment. Because I think you've got to a stage now where you don't necessarily want it just to be filtered from me to the contractor and so forth. It was very clear at the last meeting, you want to develop a longer term broader vision. So it needs a group of you to do that really, rather than it being me just going away and doing a bit more research and then coming back to the next meeting. That doesn't really tick the box that you're wanting in terms of developing the loos, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it also fits into the agenda item we're going to go on to, which is looking at the tendering contract, because that definitely will need a sort of longer term input from councillors, if that makes sense. So yeah, there have been quite a lot. I know that John has replaced all the toilet roll dispensers in the last 12 months. When I visited with him, all the drives were working, and I have popped in on a weekly basis since I saw the toilets with him on the 18th of April. I have to say, I'm pretty impressed by the standard of cleanliness. There is this issue with the floor being damp in places, and it goes back to this issue over the damp pools. Now, John's view is it'd probably be prohibitively expensive to put in a damp course now, but that's something you could get your new working group, if you choose to appoint one, to look at and to take forward. You know, because that's the only real issue with keeping it tidy that I don't see, you know, you could solve with the toilets as they are at the moment.
I think if the damp course isn't functioning, we should be looking at it. I mean, just as we would if this had a problem that was letting damping on the civic, well, the civic would forever put in lots of plots. So,
There isn't a damp course, there isn't a damp course at all, that's the issue.
so, but we may, well, yeah, but we're going to have that building for years and we're not going to pull it down, we're not going to get rid of the loos. So we need to look at what we can do.
There was also a complaint on Home First community page, Facebook page, you'll be amazed to hear, about how Home First public toilets did not have, and then I wasn't quite sure what it was. It was some special access disabled toilet, so we weren't welcoming. It was part of the tourist thing. We were therefore not welcoming to everybody who might wish to come. And I thought, well, that's a bit odd because I know we've got a disabled toilet. Yeah. So I looked up this I can't even remember what it was now, but it was some, and the guy who was telling us off is in charge of these for the whole nation, as far as I can tell. And it's some sort of extra thing where there's a whole load of stipulations and criteria, which I had to pop into our toilet, so we didn't fulfil all of them. They're not big enough for some of the things that this chap was saying we should be doing in there to make them as accessible as they could be. And so I sent him a little message saying, you know, do you want to send us some details to the parish council because we own it, and basically I got told off. So he was quite, I think narky would be a good way of describing it, sort of. So I backed off on that one. But it does seem to me that notwithstanding that if there are things we could do to improve the disabled toilets, there's stuff out there, and there were grants available that we could chip in for. He seemed to be suggesting it would cost about £70,000, which made me gasp a bit. Yes, yes, yes.
Build a multi-storey car.
Well, this is it. Yes, I know. It was when we said it was going to cost £300 to put that basin in, and councillor first suggested that was good value. I thought, well, yeah. You and I were one on that. So I'm guessing we might not wish to do that, but I did think that looking more at what else we could do with our disabled toilets would be a good idea.
The very latest in disabled access.
I presume so, but
What Ben is suggesting, isn't it? We have
Yes,
working party
that's
about
right.
everything.
and find out more about it.
Look at the whole lot.
Councillor Dixon?
Yeah, I was going to propose a working party. I do think that generally the insides of the toilets are good. One of my friends who visited home to go to us, bring out the picture drone, he said got in on the bus and he used the toilets, and he said they're one of the best public toilets that he's seen and how clean they were, and he was really impressed by them. And if you do go to the public toilets around the country, obviously you get somewhere they've just been refurbished like a year or two ago, and they're like the Rolls Royce of public toilets. But then you get some which are like, I suppose, the battered old Fiestas of public toilets. So it's a range of the scale. And I'd probably say, from toilets I've been to, I want to put about 7.5, 8 out of 10 at the moment. So we are good. So like we're talking, so yeah, we can do. But when we're talking about refurbishing, like I'm not talking about smashing the whole thing up and doing it all again. So nothing that needs to be done. It's kind of making improvements to it rather than refurbishments, if you know what I mean.
Good point. So could I ask then, who would be interested in being on the Home First Public Toilet Working Group?
Gosh, that was eager.
Anyone?
Would the chair also be on the working group just out of interest?
It's not
Quite possible, but I don't want to vote on
I
it.
think we should vote him on.
Yeah.
No, I just wondered if he had already indicated whether he might be willing to be on.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did.
If Councillor Dixon can vouch for that.
Yeah.
That's three of you.
Yeah.
I feel absolutely obliged to say he has not want to do that. So, but he is, you know, it is.
Is a working group of two acceptable?
Yeah,
for now, till he
I
comes
think
back
a
up.
working group can be, it means you'll have a lot of work. It also means you can get things agreed quickly and easily. And
I'm not volunteering to join it, but what I was going to say is that I think it's important when we set up working groups, we've kind of run into this before, that somebody should be identified to lead it and call the first meeting, because otherwise time goes past and they don't meet, so then you find yourself scrambling afterwards to try and catch up. So I think as a general rule, because we are establishing an awful lot of working parties, which is very good, but I think we do need to identify somebody who's going to
probably
convene the first one.
yeah, and perhaps does need to be 3 people rather than 2 in case somebody's poorly or has an extended break for
Well,
some
I think
reason.
it's voting rights as well, because if it's 2 of you, you don't agree on something, then you're going to be there all the time.
Can we take to speak to Lawrence when he gets back and see if he would like to be part of that working group?
Yeah.
My guess is he probably will, won't he?
Yeah, would you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He will.
Yeah, especially if we So, any other matters arising from those discussions?
So I think you need to take a vote if you're setting up a working group that you have voted on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
All in
those
favour?
resolution.
Yeah.
Can I just, this will be when I can talk to the working group more about, but I did nudge John and had a discussion with him over the baby change route, which as I understand it hasn't functioned since about 2017. And talking to him about that, I knew it had been closed due to some misuse. I didn't know very much about it. And we did have a look at the disabled route to think, well, could that fit a baby change unit in it? It can. It's not big enough. It would not work. So I have discussed with John whether the baby change room could be reopened. Just to say, John has got some serious concerns regarding that, because the access door to the service corridor, which gets to all the workings of the toilets, and also has all the chemicals and so forth that are used, some of which would be dangerous clearly. His view is that there is a risk that that door could be vandalised, broken into, and cause, a serious situation. Now, of course, one of the things the working group could look at is how could that door be made secure.
Give it a steel door or
Yeah,
something.
yeah. The other thing that I know the contractors would want me to report is the reason it got closed was, as I understand it, the room was quite seriously misused. I'm not going to say, given that we've got a tape running it, I'm not going to say what was going on in that room, but it wasn't appropriate for a baby change room. And I know that the contractors would be very concerned about possibilities over inappropriate use of the room. So I do need to share that with you. I have made it clear to the contractor there wasn't going to be any vote taken about reopening that baby change room tonight or anything like that. I just wanted to report I'd had the discussions with him so you know where I've got to.
Councillor Dixon.
I don't think we should have reopened the baby change room based on what John said before about various things and misuse of it. It wasn't good before. Could we possibly have one of the units in the gents and in the ladies? Because as I've heard, you get some of them where they just fall down from the wall and you can just use them like that. And I don't know the layout of the ladies that well, but obviously I've been there before when we first reopened it. But I know the gents is quite small. I don't know if there will be space, because as a gents goes, you kind of walk in, you've got the toilet there, urinal there, and sink there. So the only space you could probably do it there is right next to the door, and it might be blocking off the access to there. But if you put it in one of the rooms, it would help. Because as I know as a parent, when you're trying to go, you're going somewhere and there's no baby change, it can be a really difficult one. So, yeah.
Well, I'm glad you're on the working group, because you've got some really good options.
Yeah. But it's some toilets you do go into, the gents and the ladies do a baby change in there. And or some of them, like, just the ladies have one in there, which is even better for me. No, I mean, in back,
I think
in
we should
morning.
declare a better personal
Councillor Martin.
Yeah.
When the baby wreck that happened. Were the toilets open later than 5 o'clock at
No.
that point? Were they always just open till 5 o'clock?
Their opening times are 9 till 5. In
Yeah.
fact, they're often open by 7 o'clock, half 7.
Right.
And I know that, you know, people who use the buses and the bus drivers are very grateful when they're open early.
Yeah.
But the set times are supposed to be 9 till 5.
So the misbehaviour happened in daylight.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, people were lazy during the day.
Okay, well, let's not talk about that. Let's move on. Anything else to report, Ms. Oliver? Okay, I think the next item is the tendering process, so we move into private session at this point, I think. Back to reports, item G on the agenda, 242516. Other assets including benches, stone shelters, raw memorials, heritage phone kiosks.
Yes, so obviously, happy to take any questions about anything I've put into the report. I'm going to deal with shelters first, if that's okay with everyone. I want to talk about Sedham Roof, because at the case meeting on Monday the 3rd of June, this was discussed, and therefore one of the things that we've got down for you to consider tonight is a request from the case committee to identify stone shelters which may be suitable to have a Sedham roof. Is it Sedham or Sedum? Sedum roof installed. I have discussed this with the chair and vice chair of the committee, and in terms of taking it forward, obviously there will have to be work done to ensure that any Sedum roof to be installed would be a safe thing to do, and also to check on the insurance costs in terms of taking it forward. But this is really giving permission to Case to survey shelters that might be suitable to have this roof installed. So I don't know if you want to say a bit about it, Councillor Morgan, because I know you talked about it in the meeting.
Yes, well, we've waited 6 months to sort of have a look at this again. And since then, actually, I've been approached by friends from me who think that the roof of the bus shelter that was originally proposed, which is bone, it actually does need some repair, that roof. So they would like to look at that one again. So they're still thinking that that is key size.
So make it stronger when we repair it.
Yeah, it's actually dipping in the middle. So the friends of Conley are, I say privately, not privately, publicly, looking for funding and looking for a feasibility study for that shelter. So, but in terms of identifying other bus shelters, no. Because I don't think there's anything that really reached out to being in a really good position to be an asset, you know, to look attractive. They tend to be like the Oldfield or something, you know, just.
I assume they attract wildlife, do they? They attract bees and they, you know, do good things for
They have all rainwater as well. But and they cool.
the amount of rainwater we're getting.
They are. They're seen as a good thing.
They're a good thing for the bees and all that stuff.
There's a shot in the middle of Firth, isn't there? Going just on Hallgate, which is ours.
Yes.
I don't know how that would work. That looked quite nice in the middle of
Well,
Firth, something like
that's
that.
very similar shape to the one in London as well.
I haven't really looked at the roof. It's
It's
kind of,
sort
yeah.
Yes, it's got sort of small pitch at the back and a big one at the front. Stone sides.
What kind of roof do you need to have a ceiling roof? Do you need it
You
flat?
have to make, no, you can have it sloping, but you have to make a fibre box, and then you put in a waterproof membrane, and then you put in something a bit like egg boxes.
Right.
And then you put in the gravelly medium, and then you put a cedar on the top.
Okay.
So,
I presume it's marine ply or something.
Yes, the one in Holgate, down Holgate, that would be a good place
that
to
would be a
be.
cute one, actually. I thought of that one, I was thinking of one slightly more out of the centres.
The Hollowgate one is definitely more robust. Definitely more robust, I would say, than the Holgate one.
quite an old building to do.
As I understand it, it's not a danger. The issue is you would have to repair it for it to bear that load. And of course, our contractor, John's the only person we've asked, but his view was quite definitely that, you know, it would not take the weight. But if you remember, the quote that was got did include an amount for repair as well as an amount to put the cedar roof in place. It was quoted that it cost £3,355.82 to repair the shelter, £2,464.13 to install a cedar roof.
So you mean £6 in total, or?
Yeah.
But if you took the same slates off to put a new strut across the top, because I think that's what it probably needs, and then put the same exact repair price, isn't it? That's
So it might need an RSJ or something.
That's what I mean, yeah, so I think it's probably best.
Okay, so I guess the question is, a case asking us to approve them to look at potential shelters.
Yes, but as I understand it, Case are looking to fund this. Is that right?
Well, not necessarily with the Harley one, they would want approval, and they would fund it.
Right.
Friends of
Friends of Holland,
Holland
yeah.
would do it. Yeah, but because it's a bush shelter that belongs to the council, they commissioned it to do it.
We'd have to make sure that the.
Well, we'd have to pay for the repair and they could pay for the ceiling, which it could be £3 each.
But we'd have to make sure that the works that's done to a good standard if they do works on our
I
shelter.
think we should take responsibility for the repair of the roof. And Friends of Honley could take responsibility for having the ceiling. One of the birds agrees with it. And then,
The one thing I do think we probably need to do a little bit of research on is the potential insurance costs,
yeah.
because it's a longer term cost for the council.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And there is maintenance involved, you know, so you've got to make sure you haven't got sycamores seeding up there.
You're losing me, please. Like, you're losing me. Like, this is costing more and more and more. Like Steve's talking about, it's 6,000 already to do one of them. It's alright as it is.
Well, the whole first one would only be 3,000 because it doesn't need repair.
Well, we don't know that it doesn't.
Well, let's assume.
But only 3,000. If I just leave it as it is, it doesn't
Friends
say
of
anything.
Holland think that's quite an expensive quote as well.
I must admit, it does seem
Yes,
large
it is, yeah.
for a
I-
very small roof with some of £6,000.
Yeah.
I'd like to hear more about this before we commit to anything. So it's still, again, it's still in the early stages.
I don't think at this point we've been asked to commit to anything, are we? Oh, so,
It's just the possibilities.
yes. So I think the first thing for us to consider is whether we're happy for Case to identify stone shelters that may possibly be used.
Yes.
There's no harm in doing that.
Yeah, so everybody okay with that? Yeah.
As long as we're not influencing
There's nothing
the
like
state.
I'm not sold on it yet, but I'm not against it either.
And then I'll put some of the caveats we've been discussing into the so it's there, and Case can see it then.
Yes.
In terms of have to look at the insurance and maintenance costs and so forth. Yeah. Quite lovely. So that's the first thing in terms of shelters. I'll talk about benches next, if that's
I'm not
okay.
a quote based on 18 legs. I just
It's the same guy who has fabricated legs for us in the past. So, honestly it is.
Prepared to, that would go with the quote, I think it's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So the asset register, ward by ward, has been updated. I've had discussions with the contractor regarding benches that need repairs and painting. We've had issues with painting because the weather has been absolutely terrible, as everyone knows. I think we've just given up waiting for the weather to improve because John has been sort of out blitzing the benches over the last couple of weeks. I think last week he did something like a dozen repainting. He's trying a different paint as well, because the paint he's used before, I think wasn't robust enough or lasting long enough. So there's been quite a lot of work going on benches, not just the ones I listed here. There have been benches in Upperthorne, Honley, Hartworth. Lots of the different wards have had benches that have had a repaint over the last week or so. I've not.
We've not got my Willdale one in yet. I did bring it in last Monday, only to remember that it wasn't open. But I've forgotten to bring it tonight. But there are some that need some TLC, they need painting, and there's one that's splintered, and if you were foolish enough to sit on it, you would be sorry, put it that way. So,
You'd lather your tights.
yeah.
Is so your asset register, have you got you let me have it?
I will let you have it, yeah.
Lovely, thank you, because then I can add that
Add that
into the
in,
mix as
yes.
well.
There's
As
something.
I say, we're sort of on it at the moment, we're trying to get the benches where we think they should be. Okay, so that would be really useful if you could do that, councillor.
Yeah.
Wow. That's it really in terms of benches.
So, before we move off benches, can we officially approve the expenditure
Yeah.
for the refurbishment?
The 18
Yeah,
legs.
18 legs. Yep. Approved.
So, and then, other,
Oh, and 18 legs, there's 4 legs on a bench.
Maybe 2 of them.
Maybe it's a disabled bench.
It's a two, don't you? They want on each side.
Yeah.
what?
Just 2
Yeah.
big
Yeah.
big wide
But like,
ones.
I think 18 is a bit of a weird number. Like, I think I did it all at 20.
I can
Well,
tell you
that's the
exactly
university
why
thing.
it's 18. I've remembered now, John did tell me. So what happens is, this engineer, it's the size of the sheet of metal he gets will allow him to make 18 legs.
Right.
That's why it's that specific
Yeah.
number.
So he can say, if we don't need as many as 18, he can say
We can keep 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's it. That's right.
Good. Feel happy now.
Right, so war memorials. I have told you about Dockholes War Memorial, said about Nethersbone, and then I've updated you regarding the Hepworth War Memorial. I've just not had time to do that application over the Hepworth War Memorial. I have to say they weren't very encouraging. They sort of really tried to put me off making an application by saying, well, you know, you'll be in a long sort of list of people applying and it might not get through. But I do think that that's the right way to do it. We'll do the application first, see what comes out of that.
Save you waiting for
If that isn't successful, it may well be that it's something that is recommended to full council to consider, because there's no doubt about it, those Hepworth memorial slabs do need repair. One of the other issues I'm having at the moment is we can only make the application if we've got at least one other quote. Because it's specialist work, a lot of the people I've contacted off of the recommended list don't necessarily live in this area, they're from all around the country. So it's finding a company from the approved list that will come and give us a second quote. What I might have to do is talk to the War Memorials Trust to say, well, can I get a second quote? It might not be from someone on your list, because you know, it would be really silly, I think, if we couldn't put an application in just because we couldn't get the second quote. So that's where we are with that. I have been keeping Reverend Keith Griffin advised of the progress that we're making, but yeah, that's where I think we are. We'll put the application in and see what we get. Okay, and then the waste bins will come up later when we're talking about the dog waste bag dispensers strategy and indoor and so forth. But I would like to publicly thank Councillor Bailey and Councillor Ryder for going and having a look at these issues when we have reports from the public over issues that they've got to see for themselves and been able to keep me informed about what's going on, both for the issue that happened at Hetworth and the one that happened at Sandygate. So thank you for doing that. That's great.
On a very rainy day.
Okay. I'm quite happy to take any questions about my report. One of the things, because I met with John, not last week, the week before anyway, he usually does a report, as you know, but I have quite a lot to say, so I've just done the report. And I also think it's a way ahead of thinking, well, what do we want to do with this tendering process? You know, is it that you want a report from the contractor, or is it that you actually want a more formal report like this? So it gives you a taste of the kind of report you get from me on the publicly used assets if you decide that that's what you want to do. Okay. So I don't know if anyone's got any questions for me about anything else in the report?
10,000 no.
Yeah.
Very good. It's comprehensive.
Okay. New Mill Cemetery. Oh, hang on. So, yeah, any of the matters arising from benches, stones, shelters, etc. Nobody had anything. So, moving on. New Mill's closed cemetery.
I don't think I've got much to report here. I did contact Kirklees through Councillor Brooke in terms of whether Kirklees would be any of the Kirklees officers would be able to give us any assistance with drawing up a specification for New Mill Close Cemetery. Councillor Brooke was really helpful in chasing that for me. Unfortunately, Kirklees weren't able to offer any help at this point. But you can see in the tender documents that we looked at earlier, the approach we're taking to New Mill, and certainly before the finalised tender process documents come back to you, I know that the chair, Councillor Bailey, is looking to meet with the church authorities at New Mill so that we can discuss with them what goes into that tender documentation as well.
Anybody any questions on New Mill Cemetery? Okay, services, minibus provision. Reviewing the contract with West Yorkshire Combined Authority. There's a report in the pack. Yes,
Is this likely to go into public ownership under the new government? And become Kirklees' responsibility, not ours? Or the West Yorkshire Authority?
It's West Yorkshire.
But West Yorkshire is talking about public ownership. Tracy Babin has suggested public ownership of buses.
Like we do in Manchester, don't they?
Yeah, they've done it in Manchester.
She's
And she appeared, she was on the news tonight looking extremely bullish about it becoming national, let alone Kirklees.
I think it's over a few years then. I don't think anything will happen, you know, but,
I think it's when the contracts, when the current contracts come to an end, and it's not like we want to try to take it in-house, but there has to be a big investment in purchasing buses and doing things like that, as I understand it. And at the moment, when we met with Stocks and spoke to them about it, they've kind of been reluctant to make any investment in their buses and in their fleet, because there's no point if they're not going to have any use for them in a few years' time. So it's a bit of a weird transition moment, I think, as we see it. And we I don't quite know how the new world's going to work and how it's all going to be.
Councillor Morgan, have you got any points that you wish to bring out? I know you've been heavily involved in this.
Well, not really. I haven't got any more news from Stocks, but I did have a meeting with the Penistone Line Partnership representative, and Alex Bray, who also works for the railways, and obviously is a trustee of Civic Hall, and they were talking about trying to get some public engagement to get people onto buses and trains, so they're looking at it together, and they wanted to organise some events, a bit like the Walkers Are Welcome that are on the railway lines, to do something like that with stops. Or for stops to take people to the train station, and people have a day out in Sheffield, that sort of thing. So they're definitely thinking about that, and the Princeton Partnership and Alex Fraser, cross-country trains, they have money to do that sort of thing, for it to be joined up. So it felt quite encouraging that, because our brief was getting more people on the bus. And you know, if the other people are joining in like that, it's quite nice.
And do we have any feedback, can I ask, on how the free bus that stops run for the Home Firth Arts Festival went? Does anybody know if that happened?
I think more, it did happen,
Yeah,
but the Saturday when it would have been the art, I think it was free on the Friday and the Saturday.
yeah,
And not about the Friday, but the Saturday itself it peed it down all
yes,
day.
it did.
So that was really disappointing because that would have been, you're trying to get people out there to do
Yes,
it. And there was, Gemma put a few things on Facebook about it in the Humber community page. I put a couple of reminders on the people on the email page and other things. And I don't know if it had any better usage or not, but it was a bit late when we got the word that we were going to do it, so there
Yes.
wasn't much publicity for it. So
On a happier note though, the Honley free stop bus absolutely ran, and they were going every 30 minutes.
Oh, the Honley Show?
Honley
Yeah,
Show.
they always do.
yeah.
And sadly, no one's counting numbers, because that would be such a good thing to
Yes.
know how many people are on
Yes.
the bus. I can just say it was very full, you know, when we used it. That's what you need, isn't it?
yes, what we need is some figures there, isn't it? So that's something to bear in mind for next time.
I think Lawrence has asked for them from her.
Councillor Collins?
Just going back to the Penistone line and all that, at the moment there is a sad lack, because you can use the 911 bus to get to Honley Station to go in the direction of Sheffield, and the times work unless there's a serious hold. And similarly coming back from Sheffield, it doesn't work to go to Huddersfield or come back from Huddersfield. You're hanging around for an hour or 45 minutes or something, and that needs looking at. In part, in your thing.
The group.
Yeah.
I'll give a bit of a report. One of the things I did, because I was off work due to my sabbatical, and I had an afternoon where, well, about 2 or 3 hours where I went and got on the bus from New Mill, minibus, and I spent £4, and he got me, it was £3 even, and for a Home Valley rider ticket, which I didn't even know about you could get. So £3 for all your buses around Hunferth and Honley, and you can even the first buses. So I went on the minibus, and I went on the minibus from New Mill down to Hunferth, and then I went round up up towards Brockholes and all around a few of the routes, and Wardale and the Scholes one as well. And it's really interesting, and I spoke to a few people on there and things like that. And it is such a lifeline what the minibus does do for these people. There is people who are really struggle physically, and they wouldn't be able to get out to go to places, go to hospital appointments and things like that if there wasn't the minibus. And the figures of the amount of people I saw using it, it was around about such a midday when I went out. It was quite a peak time of the day. They were busy. There were good numbers using the buses, and there were people who wouldn't be able to use the buses, and good age range as well. I saw people who were younger with children on them as well, and teenagers coming home from college who was using it to get to Cinder Hills or South Lane. So it is really worth us doing. But I just think there's ways we can make it better.
Oh, sorry, Mary.
Councillor Blacker?
I was just going to say that I think this is some work we can do in conjunction with ethics, really, isn't it? I mean, I think there's
Oh,
lots
sorry,
of,
who was there from ethics? Sorry,
yeah,
I'm not
there's a lot,
from that, didn't
there's a lot of synergy really between what we're trying to do and what they're doing really, and we'd be stupid not to work closely on
I
this.
think your role could be just in the promotional stuff.
Yes.
Promotional stuff, because when we were at the Honley Show talking about buses, people were saying, well, I live up near Brockwell Station, where's the bus? You know, so they were asking questions like that.
Well, I think it's crazy that they didn't go to the Brockhall train station. It's doing worse. You're just so close to the Brockhall train station.
Yeah.
You just go a bit further up there and turn around and come back down and go the other way. And I think we've got loads of ideas, haven't we? We've got loads of ideas for it, and we can make it better.
Councillor Ryle?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I don't think it even matters if some of those buses are not full or even nearly empty, because they're a service. And even if it's only one person manages to get on the bus and comes down to Hunferth and meets some people and has a nice, do you know what I mean? It's something that huge numbers of people are not going to get on board with realistically, because everybody's so tied to their cars. However, I am very much in favour of buses, and I do use buses.
Yeah.
But unless you get that sort of critical mass, then you don't get more people. You only have to look at what happens in London. Everybody goes on buses, you know, because it's so different. So unless we reach that sort of critical mass, then I don't think everybody's going to be using buses. However, regardless, it's still a really good thing to do. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that. Obviously working group will keep us informed. Thank you. Christmas tree provision. This could get interesting. So has everybody read Lawrence's report on Christmas trees and the proposal for this year?
I know, but it could be it's July, isn't it? So who wants to think about it? But we don't want to leave it till December and then panic over the Christmas trees, do we?
No, we need to be planting them now.
10 years time.
So I think the key is the 4 points that Lawrence has made at the end. You know, but those are the things that really need considering by the committee. And you know, I know in conversation when I met with Lawrence and Glenn, talking very much about, yes, we want to move to a grant application kind of mechanism whereby we can make monies available to all wards to be able to have either trees or decorations. But I suppose the magic about it will be is we can get to a mechanism that doesn't put people off by making things too prescriptive. I would just remind people one of the points that was made when this was last discussed though, which was the climate action point. Perhaps there could be a stipulation about the lights only being on from, I think it was, you know, early December to the 6th of January. So that might be something, you know, with your climate action glasses on, you sort of think about in terms of moving forward. But having thought about that, both Honley and Homefair have their lighting events the last week in November, I think. So that might be something to adapt.
We will need to liaise with the business associations because they want to get the maximum amount of shops over the Christmas period, and they're entitled to do it. And certainly in the case of Honley Business Association, they do enough for the community for us to say, well, let's let them give them their last week in November, you know, if it helps, if it's going to help them make money.
Just in addition to that, I agree totally, yeah. I think the businesses will not be very happy if they're told that the lights are not going on until December. And a lot of those businesses will actually help to put up all the decorations.
Absolutely,
put up
the Honley
lights,
Business Association is absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, they do, and I refer to.
And given what a difficult time businesses are having at the moment.
Can I also say, sorry, that yeah, it says can benefit from additional Kirklees Ward councillor support, but does not count on this. Yeah, I don't think you can count on more funds from the Kirklees Ward councillors, because we don't really have much in the way of funds. It's been like drastically cut, as everything else.
Okay.
I'm just concerned that it does seem quite prescriptive really, or the possibility of it being quite prescriptive, and I think if we do more work on this, I'll suggest that we don't put in loads of conditions, establishing conditions, and make people fill in the full application.
Each village needs to be able to do what it's able to do.
Yes.
Councillor Dixon.
Yeah, but that could be a bit of a problem because it mentions it comes to you who's applying for the grants. So how does that work? Does that mean we grant them a tree and we go and source it and then get the tree for them, or do we give them the money? But also, I know that like, I know that like if it, for instance, if Heckle were to apply for one, it's Heckle Community Association, they're constituted and they're all really good. And I think, well, Hey Nedge has got a similar group. But then we've got a Christmas tree that goes up in, there's one in Netherthong and there's one in Hinchcliffe Mill at the Sunbowling. And I don't know if they've got constituted groups. And we would probably need to let the people know who are involved with them in quite a bit beforehand, rather than coming up to us in October and saying about our tree. And then we can say to you, no, you can't have one to fit our new criteria. So it's...
Yes, I mean, Waldale is not, there
No.
isn't a constituted group.
There is the Village Green Group in Waldale that's constituted. They do that event at the bank holiday.
Yeah.
So
But they would have to be motivated to make application.
yeah, I don't know.
Because at the
Yeah.
moment it's your up till this year, it was Kirk Lees who put it there.
And it does say here,
I think Clark's got a point.
It might be a constituted group, but I do think you need a group to make an application, because we have indeed provided a tree for Hinchcliffe Mill at Stumble Inn for, you know, several years. We provided the tree last year, the landlady changed and the tree never got decorated or used. So I do think you need some proactivity on the part, you know, you need someone to be applying and saying, yeah, we'll have that £200 and this is what we're going to do with it, even if it's not a constituted group. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You've got to have someone who's going to take responsibility for it.
it does say on here about bulk purchase discounts for trees. So it's not just that we're giving them the money, we've got to give them the tree, have we?
Well, this is certainly Lawrence's favoured way of doing it, I think. Trying to get as much value for money as we can, because Kirk's has certainly given the parish council a good deal, you know,
Yes.
that they have provided trees at very good cost, that Kirk's have then delivered at all these different locations, and they've then collected as well at the end. So it may well be that, you know, these groups want to use that purchase power, but on the other hand, it may be that, you know, all they want is say, no, what we want is the £200 grant and this is how we're going to spend it. But there probably should be that option, that if they want us to order the trees centrally, because we know we get a good deal for it, we would do it.
Going back to the point of constituted groups, I mean, certainly in F&M, and we're finalising the fine-tuning of the document we did 2 years ago on what can apply and who can't apply and will be excluded. And we talk about companies and groups with volunteer directors, or a committee, or a board of trustees, or a management board. So just a committee, it doesn't have to be a constitution and you know, and all of that. It's just, and you know, if there's a group able to put a tree up, there's enough of them to say they're a committee and produce a sheet of a side of A4 saying who they are.
Any other comments on the service reporting? I know this is still being looked at, isn't it? And, you know, we'll bring the findings back to the next meeting. But I guess at that point, on the 23rd of September, we were fairly near the point that we'll need to be looking at the grant applications coming in, I would have thought.
Or putting in the orders for the trees as well at that point.
In fact, we should, in an ideal world, we'd have the applications, I know it's ridiculous, but in August or July. The following year, we should aim to be getting people applying for trees in the summer.
Yeah, I have. I've been in touch with the addresses I've used in the past, Kirklees addresses, to ask Kirklees officers about, you know, the Kirklees trees for this year. I've not had any responses yet, but you know, I think maybe now that we've got the election done with, I'll try again to see if I can get a response about, you know, what Kirklees are going to be charging, and if indeed they are providing that service this year. But don't know. I haven't had any responses yet from communication with them. So I suppose one of the ways of looking at this then, in terms of proposals, is, does this seem to be the right direction of travel with the proviso that you want the idea of constituted groups taken out? You know, a community group, as long as it is a group, as long as it's got nothing else to put in an application,
Yeah.
that will do,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you're happy with the direction of travel, whether you would then consider delegating to the chair and the clerk actions with regards to Christmas tree provisions, so that new arrangements are in place and ready for approval in September.
Yeah.
All in favour? Okay, thank you for that. Just as exciting, a dog waste strategy. I think what we're being asked for at this point in time, I would suggest is not a big discussion on dog waste, but rather the fact that what Lawrence is proposing is an appointment of up to 4 members of a working group to draft a new strategy for public area litter and dog waste management.
Can I ask a question?
Of course you can.
What is it that we're actually responsible for as a parish council? Because we're not responsible for the bins or the bins being collected.
Nothing.
So I sort of wonder what our purpose is a little bit in terms of dog waste.
I think, well, we also have to be very careful because at the moment we provide bags. And in Honley they just get stolen on day one for reasons I don't understand. And we do not do any collection or any sorting, and we absolutely mustn't. We get into special training, all kinds of risk to people doing it. I mean, we absolutely don't want to become responsible for.
I mean, my understanding is the idea of the committee is to, or the working group, were to look at this and decide what our strategy should be, if there needs to be one.
Yeah.
So if they may decide that
We're
we're
not
doing
actually
nothing, but
responsible for anything.
no, Councillor Dixon.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
We aren't responsible for anything, but in the past we've done the bags and we've got dispensers. And we did something up on the school because we had a problem with it there when the kids designed the poster. But we don't have to do anything, we can do nothing. But the thing is, I'm going to ask everybody if they'll put their hands up. If you've ever had anybody in your ward contact you or talk to you about dog poo or about anything on any of the community pages, put your hand up. So, you have.
Never one.
No?
Maybe it's just head up as
Well,
barking
we
by it.
don't get them in Honley because they're stealing the bags and then we've got a problem.
No, but like
I
it's
think there is a problem.
Yeah.
it is infuriating for me. So I've been on the council for 17 years or something like that. And the amount of hours I've had spent talking about dog poo and bags. And it really annoys me when people don't pick it up because it's just bloody lazy.
Yeah.
If you don't, you should have asked the dog if you don't.
Councillor Dixon, I don't think anybody's in disagreement. I really don't. But what I would like to do is go back to the point.
Breathe, Tom, breathe.
Go back to the point we're trying to vote on. Can we get a working group of up to 4 people to draft a new proposal, a new strategy? Would anybody be interested in joining that working
I'm
group?
happy to join that working, but be careful about how we state what its remit is really, because I'm not sure we should be doing this.
And that may be the decision of that working group.
Yes.
Yeah.
I will, because I've
Councillor
been
Ryan and Councillor
involved
Blacker.
in a number of
Yeah.
issues.
She was not French principal to be on the dog.
Not being a
I
dog.
refuse to waste too much time on it over the years.
You put the years in.
And nothing gets done. It's still on. It's idiot though.
So as it was Lawrence's proposal of up to 4, I think what we should do is take Councillor Black and Councillor Ryan, speak to Lawrence on his return and see if he's happy with that, or whether or not he thinks he needs somebody else on this one.
He's definitely thinking he is going to be on.
Yeah, I thought he would.
Good man.
Okay? And we'll move swiftly on from that if you don't mind.
So again, I think because you are constituting a working group, you need to give approval to it, you need to
Yeah.
take a vote.
Yeah.
We approve.
Okay. Tourism. The next one. Again, there's a note from Lawrence on his proposal and his thinking about the way forward at this morning in time. And I guess what he's looking for is approval to, that the direction of travel he's taking at the moment is the correct one. Is that what he's seeking approval for? I think it is, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yes.
the three things listed.
Creating a local heritage.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Number 3, we're going to be setting up a local heritage
No,
centre.
there is a group that's looking at it,
Yeah.
and I'll leave it at that.
Right.
Might be digital, might not be an actual centre.
Right.
Are we at this point happy to approve Lawrence's direction of travel with it?
Yes.
I think that's what we're seeking. Yeah, at this point in time. Okay, the next one is youth work in the Home Valley. Again, you've got the report from Cape Leeds Youth Alliance
Yeah.
on what they've been doing. Fairly detailed report on the things they've been doing, the number of people attending various groups, various sessions, and the current spend. But I think we've got some decisions to make on future funding. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, you put the funding there in terms of the budget line. This is recommending to full council the approval of the expenditure. So the 25,000 is there in the budget line. Because it's more than 5,000, it does need full council approval. I'm assuming that Kirklees Youth Alliance will want paying again in October, February. So this is really setting things up so that a recommendation can go to full council on October the 15th.
All in favour of that?
There is a spelling mistake.
Yeah, there is parish council.
Authorised prior to London.
Oh yeah, it's 2. Not a toe. There's no towing involved. 2.
Glenn,
Yes.
could we perhaps thank whoever did this report? I mean, I'm so really pleased to see this. It seems to
Susan
be
Gray.
an awful long way to get to this point. So thanks, Susan, for the quality of the report and
Yeah.
the amount of detail, because we pressed and pressed to have figures,
Yeah,
and we've
yeah.
got these figures here in abundance. So.
So if you could pass on thanks to Susan
Yeah.
from the service provision committee.
Yeah.
And to Tyler as well for the work that she has been putting in.
Yeah.
It sounds like she's a really good asset and putting in some really good work, and yeah, it's really good for the people, the kids in the valley.
It's a wonderful quotation for young people, I think,
Yeah.
moving and, just a bit to feel this is something we should really be doing.
Yeah, and just a point of information, I know that Councillor Bailey and Councillor Blacker are both involved in potentially visiting some of the youth provision when it's on, to see it in action.
I think that's probably going to be delayed till September because it's not running through the summer,
Through
so
the summer.
we kind of missed that. We've got clips on the next one.
Moving on, defibrillators, and I think the proposal here, there's some information and an email trail on emails between yourself and the Yorkshire Ambulance Service about ownership, and I think the proposal here is whether or not we should take on responsibility for 2 further defibrillators.
Yeah, so there's been this, you've seen part of the email exchange and also lots of conversations on the phone about defibrillators in the Home Valley Parish Council area, and as you can see, there are at least 36 in the area. We know and we've established that the fund we've got is about making sure that the 2 that are in the current ownership of the parish council, can have parts replaced as and when necessary, and they will always be necessary because, as I understand it, the batteries and so forth have limited lives. So that money will always be needed. So the Yorkshire Ambulance Service that I've been in contact with, they've just got 2 defibrillators left that they've not been successful in either getting people to put their hands up to say, yes, that belongs to us, or at least to put their hands up and say, yes, we're happy to be custodians of that, and if there's any fundraising that's needed for replacement of parts, we will take care of it. And these 2 defibrillators that are left are one which is, as I understand it, attached to a private residence's garage in Brockholt, and the other one is in Hanbridge, outside the Cornlock. I think the one in outside the Cornlock was originally sort of there for the primary school, but anyway. But the origins of how they came to be situated where they are lost in the mist of time. And that is certainly true. But we would clearly be doing a big service to the Yorkshire Ambulance Service if the parish council agreed to take on ownership.
Just the two, you're saying.
Just those two. And as you can see from the email exchange, it's been made very explicit. The Yorkshire Ambulance Service is not going to come to us with further requests about this. And of course, being the parish council, what we don't want is to have the goods in the locality which can't be used.
So we've been asked to consider that we take them on.
Motion takes it on.
Yeah. All in favour?
So that recommendation will go to full council.
Moving on to item 24, request for an interactive sculpture.
So this is a bit of an odd one. As you'll have seen from the email, it's actually a request from a member of the public saying, this is a good idea, why doesn't the parish council do this? And it's there because, you know, I must share everything with you. It is for you as a committee to think about this. But also then, just a short time afterwards, I've had correspondence from the sculptor that was being recommended.
Is it mother who sent the email?
Well, I don't know.
Was the email from Mrs Vickers?
No, it wasn't. Obviously, I've redacted first. It wasn't Mrs Vickers. No, it wasn't. But anyway, you can sort of decide about coincidence. But the email said, thank you for taking the time to read this email. My name is Andrew. I'm a local stone sculptor based in Yorkshire. Reaching out to share my unique stone creations I believe would greatly benefit the parks and public spaces that your organisation cares for. So he's obviously written to other local councils as well. One of my most popular, trying to take a picture that it wouldn't. I'll pass around what I've got that I can show you. So these were the things he included with his email. The Sleeping Giants sculpture featuring two boulders carved into a head and feet with the body formed from soil, creating an imaginative and whimsical presence in any park. Public sculptures like mine play a vital role in enhancing community spaces. Please see attached images of my work. I would be delighted to talk about any of that to you. So I did email him to say this isn't, you know, at the moment there is no project that this would fit into, but also saying that I would share the information with you because, as it happened, a member of the public had specifically asked whether you could consider this. Okay, and that's all I'm
How
going to
much
say
have
about
it
it, really.
Councillor Blacker?
Well, I'm going to be sort of littering and saying no. Because we've just spent several £1,000s on a large structure up at the top of Fulmore, haven't we? And we're about to spend another 6,000 on the COVID memorial, which isn't, which is trees primarily, but I don't think we should take this up because I mean we may be approached again. I can't see the point of doing this.
Councillor Dixon?
I think my 3-year-old, you would really like a sleeping giant or something like that. I think it'd be really cool. But I agree with Mary, it's well expensive. And the parks themselves are all being renovated at the moment. So I think that's enough really. And they do some willow stuff as well in this down at the sands, and that's really good and more environmentally friendly. And a lot cheaper because Kirklees get it all and all the Arctic Festival will do it all. So I'm happy for them to keep on doing it.
How much did those ones?
Yeah, how much are we talking about? Did you say?
So,
No.
No.
Okay.
A lot of cheap, will
They'll have to go there.
They're all good, yeah,
they?
yeah, they're good.
The ones on the website, but I guess they're more for private gardens, they range between 150 and £300. But it doesn't quite say how big they are
I
or
was gonna say they must be very small.
anything.
And the artists always charge more.
It's going to be one of those dragon things, it looks quite, but it's got like a dragon's head that comes up, and it's got a hook there back then, and then a tail on the back. I don't think it's a crazy amount of money, but.
Okay, so let's put it to the vote. Is anybody suggesting that we should look at purchasing these for our open spaces, parks, etc.? Is anybody willing to support this?
Not at the moment.
No, because it's not part of the design, you can't just do it.
I thought that the schemes, we went to this,
Maintenance costs, if it's made of earth.
we went to this place in Wakefield, I can't remember what it's called, there's a reservoir there, and there's a book at Edinburgh, like, it's called Room on the Broom, it's like one of Julian Alderson ones. And you walk around the reservoir, and different points is different characters from the Room on the Broom and stuff like that. And things like that, like, I saw it, some of my mates put something on Facebook about it, he'd been there, and I thought, oh, Aidan would love that. And stuff like that would bring people into the area and bring people in. Like we took us to Wakefield, we spent some money in the visit centre and other things like that. And stuff like that brings people in. But just having one random stone thing.
That's a project, isn't it? That's a project.
But something like that would be good for tourism or something like that. There's a good follow one as well somewhere else.
I would suggest we go back and say we have no projects that
Yeah.
fit this category at this moment in time.
Yeah.
If something comes up, whether we're
Yeah.
talking about heritage trails or something else that we
Yeah.
think might be
Yeah.
suitable,
Yes.
we'll keep them in mind for any
Yeah,
future
good
projects.
thinking, yeah.
Okay. Lastly, items for publicity.
The dog poo committee.
No. But then lose it once more, you know it's not gone through. You don't want to do that.
And the names of Alison and Tom so that people can contact them. Special contact number for the dog poo committee.
No, we're not.
That's
Are you on the toilet?
They're not talking about
You're the human poo.
Do we think there's anything specific we should be mentioning?
I think probably the dog pooed out.
I think there's lots of proposals that,
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in the air. Yeah.
that hasn't quite got to that final stage
The
yet.
youth worker.
Yeah, good work.
That's a definite positive.
Yeah.
And should we be flagging up Christmas trees now?
No.
Because you're all white.
Right.
No, because we need the committee to decide what it's doing about.
In that
What
case,
would you like? I'm not Tricia.
has anybody got any further comments or questions they would like to raise? No, in that case, I'll close the meeting.
Ooh, wow.